topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from experts on such topics as legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to our experts in community association law, estate planning law, tax relief, Medicare, public insurance adjusters, neuropathy treatment, business brokers, and personal injury law, along with many other topics. Now here's your host for the last 17 years, Steve O.
Morning, Ohio, Michigan. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Hey, if you thought about selling your business, we have got one of the top business brokers, not just in Ohio, Michigan, but the United States. Let me welcome Brad Ruth of Great Lakes Business Advisors. Good morning, Brad.
Morning, Steve. How you doing this morning?
Good, buddy. I got to tell you, we had two guys that said, you know what? I was watching your show. I own a business. And after watching the show, I'm now thinking about selling my business. And I never even thought about it. And I guess you get a lot of people that all of a sudden think about maybe it's time to sell. Tell people about Great Lakes Business Advisors.
Yeah, well, I get a lot of people. A lot of people don't even know that their businesses are sellable a lot of times. So it's educating them and then helping them understand if it is sellable, what makes it sellable. And it's recurring revenue. And it doesn't always have to be recurring as far as like insurance premium type stuff, but whether it's restaurants or whether it's plumbing or HVAC or electricians, it's the ongoing business that you can do, every day, every week, every month, because of the reputation and the amount of it's goodwill that you've built over the years. And so that's where a business value comes from, is the sales, the EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, and SDE, which is seller discretion earnings, what the business owner actually makes in that business. So those are how we look at a business, and then those are the key indicators of value, along with the industry they're in, and then we look at sales comps. Just like we do with homes or with cars. When you look at sales comps, I've got 3 or 4 different databases that I go to that have sales comparisons of similar businesses with, let's say it's a plumbing business with sales over 2 million with an EBITDA of, 250,000 or whatever it may be. Then we can go out and say, okay, what has a business in the last 5 or 10 years sold for with these numbers? And then we can come back with a good comparison, and then we determine the multiple of the SDE and the EBITDA.
Brad, I'm looking at all the questions that people are writing in, and there's about 3 or 4 areas that we're getting multiple of the same questions. And one of the questions is what types of businesses do you find easier to sell?
Easier to sell, I would say the trades companies, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, insurance agencies are easy to sell, laundromats, but it's also manufacturing and distribution businesses. Those are, to say they're easy to sell, there's nothing that's easy to sell. Yeah, right. It's just there's in more demand. People want to buy them. I sell restaurants, but they're not easy to sell because they're a challenging business to run. So they're not in demand, but they still sell. So it's just a matter of what the market will bear. But every business is sellable, and there's so many different ones out there. Like I sold a vitamin shop that didn't think it'd have a ton of value, and I sold for a really nice number on that. Convenience stores I've sold, so businesses are easier to sell if we plan for the sale and we prepare them for the sale, then the business is more sellable. But if you just call me and say, hey, I want to sell, and I look at the books and I go, well, we got some work to do. Well, I just want to sell right now. Well, that makes it hard to sell because it's not ready to sell. So what I try to do is help business owners is prepare their businesses to sell, but not necessarily even if they're not going to sell. Just we can teach them how to run them better when it's less owner centric, which makes it an easier business to own and an easier business to grow, which also makes it more sellable down the road, so that you don't have to prepare to sell. You're already run it with the end in mind. So I think that's it's about education.
Another question from TikTok. If you think that you're going to sell your business within the next year or two, when is the time to reach out to you?
I would reach out if you're thinking the next year or two. I would reach out immediately, really, as soon as you can, because let me look at it and I've been doing this for 10 years. I've got a ton of experience. I've looked at probably 1,000 businesses, and I can look at your business and go probably within a half an hour and give you some guidance of where I think we should go in order to get this business ready to sell. And so the sooner you know, the more you can plan for that exit, and you have the guide still to make those changes that we might have to make it a more sellable business. So the sooner we can talk about it, the sooner we can make the changes, and the sooner you can have it ready to sell. Even if you don't want to sell it, we might make it easier to run. You might go, well, maybe I want to hold on another year or 3 because it's better to run now because we fixed some things that have been my headaches.
Is there a best time to sell a business?
There's never really a best time. I would say summer's a little bit slower, but I would say a lot of times in the fall to winter, people around New Year are thinking about, maybe this job isn't for me, or maybe I'm looking to make a move career-wise because they're on vacation for 2 weeks or whatever. So they might, we get more activity around the holidays, but there's no good or bad time to sell. I haven't found. I mean, anytime I put a business, if it's a good business, the market, will tell me that, and we'll have leads on it. So, but might get more buyer inquiries around holidays, and maybe sometimes in the summer when people aren't working as much.
Here's from TikTok. Since I found your show, I am now thinking about selling my cleaning business. If I sell my business, will I have to sign a non-compete? Because I might want to go back into the business and start over.
Yes, typically you're going to have to sign between a 1 and 5. I would say between a 3 and 5 year non-compete agreement. So if you think you're going to go back into it, I wouldn't sell it. I would keep doing what you're doing, unless there's just a reason, or if you want to move to a different city. A non-compete's fine. It's usually within a 50 or 75 mile radius. If you're going to move to a different city, then it doesn't matter. But if you want to sell your business, then start another one up right away, or even a year or two, I would probably hold on to your business, because I think you would, you're going to be handcuffed for a while in that business after you sell it.
This is from Martin in Cincinnati. Wants to know, what are your feelings on franchises? I'm thinking about buying a franchise, but I also have to think about future. What if I want to sell it down the road? Are franchises hard to resell?
Franchises, I've owned franchises, I've sold franchises, and the challenge with franchises is they're going to get a percentage of your sales. And a lot of times you look at it and go, well, it's only 6% of my sales. Well, if your profit is 15% normally, and they take 6, now you're giving up 40% of your profit in that business. So they're teaching the way to do business, whether it's a cleaning business, whether it's a restaurant, and you end up end up paying an ongoing royalty for the life of that business. And then when you go to sell it, is it sellable? Yes. Is it any less sellable? Not necessarily, but sometimes you're better off buying an existing business, whether it's a restaurant or a cleaning business or whatever it may be, that they will teach you everything you would learn in a possible franchise without an ongoing royalty fee that you would pay, as you go along. Because there's going to be an upfront cost. You're going to buy all new equipment, and then you're get in business, and it's and then you're sometimes restricted to a territory. Well, hey, I bought it, I bought Summit County. Well, you can't go outside of Summit County. So if you want to grow the business, you have to buy it. You have to pay for another territory. So just think about those things as you're looking at a business. There is some restrictions to them. I'm not down on them. You just got to understand what you're getting into. And there are options out there for existing businesses that really get the same thing as a franchise with a built-in customer base that's already paying, and you have employees that are already trained. They have tribal knowledge. So those are things that advantages to buy an existing business as opposed to a franchise. You're starting from scratch, and I've done it, but it's a challenge.
This is from TikTok. They want to know, I've heard that a lot of businesses never sell. What is the cause of that?
About 70 to 80% of the businesses on Biz Buy Sell do not sell. And what causes that is, I turn down 9 out of 10 businesses I look at because either it's a hobby, I call it, which is a business that's not making money. It's like you're racing or something like that. It's a hobby. It doesn't necessarily make you money. Or the owner is hiding a lot of money, hiding cash, bartering, that sort of thing. It's just not very profitable. Or let's say an owner goes, I want to sell for 1.5 million. I had this where a business owner said, I won't sell for less than 2.5 million on a restaurant. And I said, well, the real number for me is about 1.4 to 1.5. And they go, well, I'm not going to sell. And I go, well, then no problem. Time for us to move on and you'll find someone else. But it's because the owner believes it's worth more than it is. I knew what the market was. The owner ended up coming back to me, and we put it at 1.8 million, and we ended up selling at 1.5 million. So I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for years. And when I tell you a number, I'm not saying that's the end all be all, but I'll give you a range, and the market will determine the price. And that's an example of a situation. It's usually because they're overpriced. So I try to go to market on a business that's priced correctly. So we have multiple offers, which will drive the price up to where we want it to be and where the market is. But we can't go in so high that we get no one to look at it. Because then if you have one buyer or no buyers, you've got nothing. So you want to have multiple people look at it. I just sold a plumbing company that we went to market at 2.1, which was a fair price. We sold it at 2.6 million. The market told us the price. So you have to understand that the market will determine the price, not one buyer or one seller.
Brad, I'm going to tell people, because I went through this and we've shared this on the show before, tell people the downside of trying to sell your business yourself.
Well, there's a few things. You don't know how to package it for a business buyer, first of all, and you have to have an objective view of your business and the value of it. Because a lot of people are so in love. They want to get paid for the blood, sweat, and tears of their business and all the time they put in. And I can't get you paid for that. I can only get you paid for what the cash flow tells you the business is worth and what a bank is going to lend at. And that's what it comes down to. Banks, SBA lending really dials in a price for us on what cash flow looks like. And every business I take to market, I do an SBA breakdown of, how we make it work. We get SBA, pre-qualified. So we really streamline the process. We know that the business is sellable when we just have to find the correct buyer. The other thing is you focus on trying to sell the business. You lose the confidentiality because your name is in there. People know you. Confidentiality is breached. Also, you're losing focus of running your business, which is then the business will start to tail off because you're not focused on the business. You're focused on trying to sell the business. And so my job is, and then you do a lot of tire kickers who waste your time, and you don't even know if they're tire kickers because you don't know, you haven't done this 100 times like I have. So I know the tire kickers. We get rid of the tire kickers. We only bring you qualified buyers that have signed NDAs, that have a personal financial statement, that have proof of funds, that have filled out my buyer questionnaire and are prepared to buy a business. Those are the only people I'm bringing you. I'm not bringing you these tire kickers that are wasting my time, over the last 3-4 months. All you want to see is results. That's all I want to show you is results. I don't want to waste your time with anything else, because my job is to vet that and just give you the quality people. And so those are factors. And then I'm the quarterback of the deal. So once it goes, a lot of deals fall apart between letter of intent and signing of a purchase agreement. And where I keep the deals together is we keep the bankers moving. We keep the attorneys moving. We have sometimes sellers get cold feet. Sometimes buyers get cold feet. The psychology of that and walking people through that and talking them off the ledge when they want to kill the deal or whatever they're going through, their wife tells them something else. There's a lot of psychological part of working through this. I should be a psychologist in business advising, the amount of work I've done and just advising people. Remember why you're selling. Here's the reason why. You're 75. You have possible health issues. Here's why we have to do it. So it's working through the psychology of the sale and helping people on that side. And I think trying to do it all yourself, there's a lot to it. And if you hire an expert, we're probably more than likely, we're going to get you 20 to 30 to 40% more than you would have gotten on your own, which will more than justify our fee.
Manny on YouTube wants to know, with the way the economy is now, is it harder to sell a business or does it not matter?
I've never had, from before I was in the business, the Great Recession was the one time I heard for several brokers that was the one time that the M&A space, mergers and acquisition space, really was depressed. Besides that, COVID, I sold 8 businesses in 2020. I mean, that didn't affect us. Nothing really affects business. Interest rates have an effect, but even when they're high, we've done deals and we've done them when they're low. I mean, if a business is a viable business, there's buyers out there that will want to purchase it. So there's not really, I haven't had a time where we've had that problem.
This is from TikTok. Great show. Want to know, is it hard? Do you allow people to come in, like you said, kick the tires? Do you know who those people are before you send them in? Because I did try to sell my business. That was a huge problem. My other problem was my employees would find out because people were calling my store, and I actually lost some of my employees.
Yeah. Well, that's when we talk about keeping it confidential, we don't want your employees, your customers, your vendors, your landlord. We don't want anyone to know that you're selling your business until we have a deal in place. And when the phone's ringing, and whether they're calling the business, you're calling your cell phone, you're getting emails, and maybe they're going into your business emails that your employees might be seeing. I mean, those are all factors. And I don't, and a lot of times we set up after they've signed the NDA. I've done an interview with the buyer to vet them, to say, hey, I think this could be a good fit. And then I will ask them, next steps would be a personal financial statement, proof of funds, and a buyer questionnaire. Once we get through that, then I'll typically set up a Zoom or a video interview with buyer and seller and me before we'll even go into the business. Because I want to see if there's a connection between buyer and seller. And then if there is, then the next step is if they want to go see the business, I can. Like, I sold a plumbing business when I did that. We had probably 15 buyer interviews, and we never had an in-person meeting until we were in the due diligence process. It's a plumbing company. What are you going to go see in an office? If it's a restaurant, you can go in and have dinner in there, whatever. If it's a manufacturing company, you want to go walk through the plant. I get it. But some businesses, it's not even necessary.
The great part about this show is I hope people learn, first of all, because I did try at first to sell my business about 15 years ago, and it doesn't work. A business broker makes the biggest difference And it's funny, we just got someone who wrote, I never thought about selling my business until watching your show. And after listening to you, I would feel confident in you selling my business. Thank you so much. That's from our TikTok audience.
Awesome.
Brad, tell people how they can reach you.
Well, they can go to my website at glbainc.com, or they can find me on LinkedIn, Brad Ruth, just like Babe Ruth. He was a great uncle of mine, by the way. But so
really?
My name's easy to find on LinkedIn. So find me there, find me on the website, or call me on my direct 330-524-8205.
Okay, so I'm in Florida. You're in Ohio. Where's LeBron going?
That's a great question. I've been hearing he's coming to Cleveland. From what that's been the rumor that he wants to come back. But I'd be shocked if he came back. We could use him because we have some issues up there that could be solved with LeBron coming here. But his skill set would be useful.
Brad, I love doing your show. You'll be back again with us next month.
Yep.
Brad Ruth. Thanks so much, Brad.
Thanks, Steve.
That's Brad Ruth. Folks, don't try to sell your business yourself. You got people out there, business brokers like Brad Ruth. Give him a call. Hey, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back again with you tomorrow with Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.